I'm going to skip ahead. I'm going to grab a verse out of chapter 3. Okay? Yeah, if you would read 3, 27, and 28, it kind of follows this. What I'm trying. The point is that Paul continues this theme throughout Galatians. Okay.
For all of you who were baptized into Christ, have clothed yourselves with Christ. There is neither Jew nor Greek, there is neither slave nor free man, there is neither male nor female, for you are all one in Christ Jesus.
What Dottie's talking about is how we divide. Anti-Semitic, Jewish and the anti-Semites. We divide ourselves politically. We divide ourselves geographically, race,
Gender.
sex, class, right? Churches are to provide an option, right? Where churches should be racially integrated. We should have a diverse community of people from different classes. And everyone's, Americans don't have classes. Yes, we do. We have classes. It's not structured like some of the European classes, but it's still there, And we just need to be more economically and socially diverse. Now, both men and women need to take roles in the church. I'm so glad that we have women in the selection committee and on, as we see in videos in the church. And Broderson's point was that if we take the gospel seriously, all that will happen, right? All that will happen. But you have to take the gospel seriously. But we need to be a model for that, and a model for equality. Equality is a truth of the gospel. Paul, we're all equally dead, right? Without Christ.
There is something to be said for doctrine, however. I mean, you don't want people saying, "Oh, the virgin birth, that's, we don't have to believe in that kind of thing." I mean, you have to have some structure for what the church espouses or believes. If people come into the church and don't believe that, that's where they are, they're coming in. But if they are coming in to convert the rest of us because they say, well, you have to have grace for my belief. And here's why I believe in blah, blah, blah. And you have these debates and that kind of thing. I mean, that can be divisive.
Right?
Yeah. And
it's a risk we are commanded to take. We are supposed to go out and engage him and see who wins. See if Christ prevails or not. Right? I mean, we have to engage him. Right now, we're just in bubbles. I got our little bubble, we got their bubble, our little bubble. And people see that.
But
that we can't, I got my kids, they can't penetrate the Christian bubble. Okay? They're outside the bubble, and they're going to stay outside the bubble. Because the bubble is impenetrable.
But if thinking about the children that are brought up in our church, if they have one Sunday school teacher who says, oh, you don't have to believe in the virgin birth, or you don't have to believe in...
We go to the Bible conferences, and remember the Bible conference at the other Grace Church, North Grace Church? Man, they're just tearing into each other, Now, if a new Christian, brand new Christian, or someone right out of the world with no background saw that, well, why should I believe you? He says you're wrong. That's a problem in the church.
Yes,
where we eat our own.
If you don't give your children a foundation to stand on, okay, then they're going to fall for anything all along the way. And
the people that are in church now,
there's a difference between tolerance and grace.
Went to church and half of them didn't.
Yeah, but
it's statistically irrelevant whether or not that you have an equal chance of, okay, you got someone 45 years old. Is he in the church? Okay, yes, he's in the church. How many of them were brought up in the church and how many of them weren't? There are just as many kids brought up in the church that are outside the church as inside the church. You guys agree? You've heard all this?
But they are saying, in statistics that if you've not accepted Christ by the time you're 17, it exponentially grows of the possibility of ever.
So we forget about them after that age?
No. But what I'm saying
You have to
is,
invest early.
Yeah.
that's
Oh,
what I'm
that's
saying.
why we have a children's
I'm saying,
pastor.
but hang in there, just because you invest early in them,
Doesn't mean.
But
Doesn't
here's what
mean-
they get upset about. They get upset about, I think, because we've talked to our kids about how they see what each of us treating one another and about the comments that are made and not seeing love and grace. You know, and I totally agree what you're saying, Dottie, about, you know, we still have to take a stand on things, and I do believe that, but at what cost? And sometimes I feel like we should be careful about when we have visitors and not wanting them to see that and misinterpret it. You know what I mean? We have to be careful about that. That's all. We have to be very careful about how the world interprets what we say. And not that we're, you know, accepting of the world, but that we also have to be loving and kind. We don't have to accept sin, but we have to still love the sinner. And that's really what I think you're trying to say, right, honey?
and the sin in ours. Focus on our own
Yeah,
sin.
because we still
Not
have
the
sin in us. And their sin is no better than, my sin is no better than your sin.
Right. Don't love the sinner and hate the sin. Hate your own sin. Start there.
Just remember.
I'm not done.
Well-
Can we finish?
Oh,
Can
yeah,
we finish?
sure.
Yeah, I think some people have to leave because it's 12.
Who's got 17? Who's got 17?
Oh, there's a meeting in here.
There, I don't think there is any evidence.
Okay. All right.
Okay,
There's
I can read it. I'll read it.
Okay.
But if, while seeking to be justified in Christ, we ourselves have also been found sinners, is Christ then a minister of sin? May it never be. Do you want me to do 18?
Yep.
For if I rebuild what I have once destroyed, I prove myself to be a transgressor.
Right. Okay. You cannot treat people like your children. Okay. He's afraid of that if you don't provide some rules, they're going to run around and do anything. Right.
Right.
And
Right, that's what Dottie's saying.
then, yeah, they'll run around and do unspeakable things. And all they want to do, they're just going to want to sin. And then say, I'm sorry, right?
Right.
And of course that's wrong. And that's what Paul's saying here. Is Christ the minister of sin? No, of course not. We're not saying that. But that's the argument you're going to get. You're going to get this argument. Now, how about 19? About dying to the law?
For through the law I died to the law, so that I might live to God.
Okay, the Jewish teachers were always trying to bring a role in for the law. They thought the law had a role in salvation, right? And now what is the role? The law condemns us, right? And when we finally agree we can't save ourselves, that's when we come to Christ. 20?
I have been crucified with Christ, and it is no longer I who live, but Christ lives in me. And the life which I now live in the flesh, I live by faith in the Son of God, who loved me and gave himself up for me.
This is how the Christian life is lived, okay? It's lived by Christ living in me. You have to cede control of your life. The function of the law is to show us our guilt, okay? Why was Christ crucified? For his sin? No, for our sin, right? And we are dying for sins, but Christ died for us. And so he says, I have been crucified with Christ. You notice the past tense, have been crucified. Okay, in a way, there's lots of thought in the church that people just got to keep on working at it, okay? They're still crucifying themselves for their sins, okay? And what he's saying is the old life is dead. Christ is now living in you. You don't have to try harder. Trying harder isn't going to save you. Right.
Amen.
Yeah, amen.
So what does that mean? Okay, things like this, reading the Bible. You should be anxious to read the Bible. Like, okay, now Linda's going to do Galatians 3. I'm anxious to read what's going to come up in Galatians 3, or David, and David's going to, and then 6. I'm anxious. It's not feel like, oh man, I gotta get 20 minutes a day into the Bible, or else I'm not saved.
Or God's gonna be angry.
But you see how easy it is to creep into that? We should just be anxious to read the Bible just because that's our new nature. I just want to know what He's got to say to us. But there's always that conflict between the old nature and the new nature. I still have the old nature in me, don't I? Don't you? Mm-hmm. It's there.
Right. But at the same time, we're commanded in the Word to reckon yourself to be dead indeed unto sin and alive to Jesus Christ.
Yes.
So I know we have sin in us, but we're supposed to reckon ourselves to be dead because we were crucified with Him and we were raised up with Him. That's already, we're seated in the heavens.
Yep. It's one thing to know it, it's another to.
Well,
To live
the
it.
whole thing goes back to what you do for His name's sake, okay? And so if you are someone who says, well, I can go out and do whatever I want to do, and then I come back and I'm still full of grace.
Yes.
Okay, but what have you done for Christ's reputation by doing that?
Right. You might lead others astray by that.
And yourself.
Hmm?
Well, what have you
And
done?
also,
What have you done for your soul?
right. And remember, there's consequences
Right.
for
You're going to
every
be
action.
judged.
Right?